Hey guys, Jim Grant here for AmmoLand TV, and no, you did not read that title wrong. I believe that the SCAR 20s NRCH is the ideal, possibly perfect DMR. Between its extremely robust construction, reliability, and accuracy, it makes for one hell of a package. But with an MSRP well beyond the reach of most shooters, you still gotta wonder, is it worth it? Well, we take a closer look at the FN America SCAR 20s NRCH in 6.5 Creedmoor and find out. Now look, I know what you're thinking. There's no such thing as a perfect anything, let alone rifle. But you know what? The SCAR 20s comes about as close as I have ever seen to a perfect DMR. Why? Well, not because of the gun's iconic look or its impeccable military record, but pure, unadulterated performance. Yes, this thing is incredible. Its performance was so good, it not only defied my expectations, but completely surpassed them. But even still, with the SCAR 20s's very high MSRP, you still gotta wonder, is it worth it? Well, let's take a closer look at the SCAR 20s NRCH in 6.5 Creedmoor and find out. Now, before I get into the details of this gun's performance, let's first get an understanding of what it is, how it works, and what it's not. So to start things off, the FN SCAR 20s is a short-stroke, piston-driven, semi-automatic rifle chambered in either .308 or 6.5 Creedmoor. It feeds from a proprietary magazine that is essentially a modified FAL mag, and factory magazines for the gun are available in both 10 and 20 round capacities, though they do make drum mags, which are awesome if a bit ridiculous on a DMR. One thing to note is that both the .308 and the 6.5 Creedmoor magazines are identical. And if you have a SCAR 17, those mags also work in the SCAR 20s. Now, one of the first things you'll notice about the SCAR 20 versus the 17 is its use of a 20-inch barrel. This barrel is chrome-lined, match-rated, and features 1-in-8 right-hand twist rifling, ideal for stabilizing rounds at longer ranges. On the business end of the barrel, you'll notice it features a Surefire ProComp 7.62 muzzle brake. This is a very effective brake. It cuts the already mild recoil down to basically nothing. And underneath this brake, if you want to put on your own muzzle device, the SCAR 20s's barrel is threaded to standard 5/8 by 24. Personally, I removed the factory brake from the SCAR 20s and replaced it with a Silencer Co. ASR 2-port brake so that I could attach my go-to sound suppressor, the Silencer Co. Saker 7.62 ASR, provided by Silencer Shop. Now just behind this, the SCAR features an adjustable gas regulator with 3 settings. At the 12 o'clock position is standard operation, at the 10 o'clock position is the suppressed or limited gas flow setting, and finally at 4 o'clock is the cleaning/disassembly setting. Now, encompassing all this, the upper receiver features a full-length monolithic railed free-floated handguard. The amount of rail real estate, so to speak, here is incredible and absolutely massive. And it may seem like overkill at first glance, but if you're looking to mount a high-end optic with either a thermal or an NVG clip-on unit, it's an absolute must. Now, one of the big changes for the NRCH version, or the Gen 2 of the SCAR 20s, is the fact that this charging handle, which is ambidextrous, is no longer reciprocating. So you don't have to worry about whacking your hand or having it jam on brush or whatnot when in the field or when firing from concealment. Another nice feature of this is that you can utilize the bolt hold open / bolt release to chamber around when you're already in the prone position and don't want to have to disrupt your firing position. It's actually really handy and very nice. And speaking of controls that are very nice, just behind all this, the SCAR 20s features controls which can basically be called AR-15 inspired. You've got your standard bolt release, which is actually ambidextrous, and you've also got a 2-position ambidextrous fire selector. And underneath this is the creme de la creme of triggers, as far as I'm concerned. It is the Geissele Super SCAR 2-stage match trigger. Now in testing, the first stage of the trigger was about 2.5 to 3 pounds, but it broke cleanly right around 2 pounds on the mark. This made placing rounds at distant targets precisely where you want them a total breeze. And at the risk of sounding like a cliche, it feels like a glass rod breaking. It is perfect. Now just below this is what I consider to be one of the most comfortable, if least aesthetically pleasing grips on the market. The Hogue Soft Overmolded Finger Groove Grip. Now admittedly, normally I don't like finger groove grips because they either fit you like a glove or they're miserable, but given the pliable, soft nature of the materials used by Hogue, it doesn't really matter. Your hand will eventually fit this or the grip will conform to your hand. Now finally, at the rear of the SCAR 20s is an aluminum PRS style stock. The stock is adjustable for length of pull, comb height, and incorporates a bottom Picatinny rail for attaching a monopod. And in testing, the stock was comfortable for basically every shooter that I tried. This includes myself, a whopping 5'9", as well as a good friend of mine who's pushing about 6'3", 6'4". And for both of us, we could find a very comfortable spot for shooting very, very easily. Now, does this mean that people who are 7 feet tall and people who are 3.5 feet tall will fit this gun properly? Probably not, but for the vast majority of shooters, this is a very, very competent, very comfortable stock. Well, enough about the features, let's get to the performance. So we'll start off things with reliability, because after all, even if the gun shoots .01 MOA all day long, if it can't feed more than 1 round consecutively without a malfunction, well, it's probably not very good. Thankfully, the SCAR absolutely destroyed this test. It never encountered a single malfunction whatsoever across the 300 or so rounds that I fired through it. Now, that might not seem like a lot of rounds, and that's fair, but given the cost of 6.5 Creedmoor right now, that's still a little over $600 worth of ammunition. Now, the first 200 rounds of this ammo was fired with the gun basically in a stock configuration, while the latter 100 were fired with the addition of my Saker ASR sound suppressor. But in either case, no malfunctions whatsoever, and the gun was extremely pleasant to shoot, both suppressed and not. But okay, it's a very reliable gun. It's a SCAR, of course it is. Because here's the kicker. Everybody knows that semi-automatic precision rifles, especially those that are piston-driven, can't hold a candle to the accuracy of a high-end, bolt-action precision rifle system. Except the SCAR 20S proved that this is certainly not always the case. Because in testing, at 100 yards, I couldn't get a measurable group from the gun. It was just one ragged hole. And at 400 yards, I was able to reliably produce 2.3 to 2.5 inch groups. That's a little bit over half MOA. And for a semi-automatic weapon as reliable as the SCAR, that is absolutely killer. Now, one thing to note is that the overwhelming majority of the shooting that I did was with Hornady's 140 grain ELO match grade ammunition. I had no problem engaging targets out to 750 with other grain, but because the overwhelming majority of my ammunition was 140 grain, that's what I went with, and from all testing, it seemed to be the most accurate load for the gun. But this isn't just a precise weapon, it's supposed to be a precision rifle system, basically a semi-automatic sniper rifle. So I had to stretch the legs out a little bit further. Now, I'm in South Carolina, so there's not an abundance of long-range setups, but I was able to stretch the legs of the gun out to 750 yards. And at that distance, not only was it a complete joke to engage steel silhouette targets all day long, but this is what's really incredible. I was able to put hammered pairs on targets at 750 yards. Now, how quick am I talking? I was able to get the second round off out of the gun downrange before I could hear the impact of the first. And it didn't just happen once. During one string of fire, I was able to put 6 consecutive rounds, each with the second round leaving the barrel before I could hear the impact of the first. That's incredible. And in fact, I feel that I could probably have done this for 20, possibly 40 rounds in a row, if not for the fact that I didn't have a suppressor sleeve on and the barrel mirage got so bad off the Saker ASR that I couldn't even see my target. And after hearing that statement, I'm sure you can already guess my verdict, but let's get to it anyway. So is the SCAR 20S NRCH worth the buy? Okay, so make no mistake, the SCAR 20S NRCH is a very expensive firearm. With an MSRP of $4,829, the SCAR is well beyond the financial reach of the majority of shooters. And even though it's expensive, the SCAR 20's performance, heritage, and the fact that no other gun offers the same features and AK-47-like reliability puts this FDE beast in a league of its own. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell up top left. And as always, for AmmoLand TV, I'm Jim Grant, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.